What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Time to talk some receivers here. First off, thanks to Garrett Frank, new Patreon here. Went over to check out my Patreon to get that draft guide. If you guys are interested, head over to patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. You can get my draft board with over 400 prospects. You can get all the info on the receivers I'm talking about today and about 40 more. So do check that out if interested. So just a reminder here, like the running backs video, every player is going to have an impact grade, which is sort of their Madden rating, their grade I have on them coming right into the league, the impact they're going to make, a potential grade, and then an overall grade, which is a combination of the two. So let's get into it here. Number one on my receivers list is Courtland Sutton out of SMU. Now, in the draft community, there is not a consensus number one receiver. So the reason I have Sutton number one here, I think he has the clearest upside and the clearest path to being a true number one receiver. You know, I think everyone in this class has room to grow and have some developing to do, but I think if he is put in the right situation with a good quarterback and a good offense, Courtland Sutton has the highest upside in this class. My comparison for him is Allen Robinson. He's big, 6'3", 218, but he's got those quick feet that you love to see from big receivers, similar to Allen Robinson or Devontae Adams or Amari Cooper. He's going to release really well at the line of scrimmage. He's already a pretty good route runner, but obviously room to grow there. So I've got Sutton going as the first receiver for me, somewhere in the mid to first round. You know, there's really not a true number one receiver in this class, but I do think Sutton is the closest thing to that, and he actually does kind of set himself apart from the next guys on my list. So number two here, we've got DJ Moore out of Maryland, who's kind of the consensus fan favorite receiver, the hype guy in this class. About a month ago, we were talking about DJ Moore in the third or fourth round. Everyone kind of knew he was going to rise. So you got some people who were doing their digging earlier, disappointed to find out that he's not really a sleeper anymore. But that's just kind of how it goes for a lot of us draft guys. You know, he's probably going to go late first, maybe early second now. The Stefon Diggs comparisons for DJ Moore are definitely there. He's a really, really solid athlete. You know, 4.42, 40 times, 6.95 3-cone, and a good shuttle. You know, he's got great movement skills. He catches the ball well, though, and does have a pretty refined route tree. But again, any of these guys, they're all going to have to grow. There's definitely some boomer bust with DJ Moore. He's just a junior coming out, 20 years old. But again, like Stefon Diggs coming out, an elite athlete. Moore doesn't have the injury questions that Diggs had coming out, but a guy that's going to have to get groomed a little bit, but really could turn into a number one receiver. You know, doesn't have the ideal size for a number one, but could definitely be sort of that Amari Cooper or Stefon Diggs. And then literally right behind DJ Moore, I have Calvin Ridley, who I'm a little lower on, I guess. But, you know, I think you could flip Moore and Ridley 2 and 3, really depending what team you are and what you need, because I think Calvin Ridley offers you more up front. You know he's going to come in and be a really good deep threat. He tracks the ball really well and is really fast. 4.43 shows it on film. My questions with Calvin Ridley are, is he ever going to really evolve past that deep threat role? So, you know, my comparison is Brandon Cooks, and in my opinion, Brandon Cooks has not taken that next step really since he came into the league. He's a deep threat and has really never been an elite guy, catch and run, slant routes, that kind of stuff. So with Calvin Ridley, is he ever going to get there? You know, he's not, if this makes any sense, explosive. He's very fast, but, you know, the vertical just isn't there for Ridley. He's not going to be going over guys to catch balls. And he really didn't show a ton of catch and run, in my opinion, at college. So I'm not going to say he can't get there, but he just isn't showing it right away. So he's going to have to develop that. He's still a really good prospect, a guy I would take in the first round if I needed a receiver. I think I just like Moore's upside a little more. But again, really close there. And then number 4, one of my favorite players in this whole class, Anthony Miller out of Memphis, just kind of has that superstar quality to him where he makes catches and just has that swag factor, that sort of Antonio Brown kind of game to him at the college level. You know, we don't have any workout scores from him, which is kind of unfortunate. You got to go off of your eye. I think he is an average NFL athlete, quicker than fast, but really, really nice hands, good route tree, really hard worker, a guy that knows what he's going to be right away when he comes in. You know, I'm comfortable taking Miller early second, mid-second round. I think he offers a really, really high upside number 2 receiver and is one of the safer picks in this draft, in my opinion. And then number 5 is a pretty similar player as well. And another player that I have a Stefon Diggs comparison for, although may not be quite the athlete, but is still a really good athlete. Michael Gallup out of Colorado State has that same quality that Anthony Miller has, where he has that confidence as a receiver. That is really important, to be confident when you're a receiver, to attack the ball and know that it's your ball and you're going to catch that thing. It sounds crazy, but a lot of receivers just don't have that mentality. You know, he releases well and has decent route tree he's going to have to develop, but showed a lot of nice things at Colorado State. He's a receiver I would take in the second round. I think he has some pretty solid upside. Obviously, with the Stefon Diggs comparison, got some good run after the catch ability as well. And then my number 6 receiver here, Equanimeous St. Brown, who's kind of the opposite of Miller and Gallup, as you're taking sort of the freak athlete, the raw freak athlete out of Notre Dame. Just a junior coming out, really just drafting this based on flashes, and we don't really have agility or vertical from this guy, but he does look like a really smooth runner on tape. Did get a 4.48 40 from him, so we know he's going to be able to stretch the field. The dangerous thing with Equanimeous St. Brown is I wrote down Devin Funchess as his comparison, but he's got way more upside than that. He could be A.J. Green, just based on his athleticism and his youth. So if he goes to the right spot, I think of like Green Bay in the second round. If they took an Equanimeous St. Brown, he could seriously be one of the best receivers in the league 2-3 years from now. Just that size, speed, true number 1 athlete. And then number 7, for me, one of the most interesting receivers in this class, James Washington, who I love his tape. How can you not? I mean, he has some of the best hands coming out. He carries a lot of that weight in his legs, which makes me worry because of so much of being an outside receiver, which if you're taking a receiver in the first or second round, typically you're expecting that guy to be able to play outside. And carrying all that weight in his legs, I kind of question the agility there and the foot quickness to create separation off of press coverage. And that's really my only concern with James Washington, but that's kind of a biggie, to be honest. And he comes out 7'11", 3-cone. That's not very good for a receiver, kind of confirming my questions there. So I heard a Victor Cruz comparison. Shout out to Louie at PFF. And I really like that. I think James Washington is a guy who can play outside at times, but ideally, like Victor Cruz, you're going to have him in the slot. He's going to dominate over the middle on slants. He's going to out-muscle smaller nickel corners for contested catches. And then maybe he gives an in and out deep route out of the slot that could be really lethal. Because even at 5'11", when you get him deep, he is dominant tracking that ball and out-muscling any D-back that's running deep with him. So that's his best trait. He's kind of an awkward player, but there's going to be a role. It's going to take a coach that knows how they're going to use this guy. And I'm really intrigued to see how it all plays out with him because I honestly can't think of a receiver built like him. And then number 8, another one of my favorite players in this class. I think this is, my sleeper on this list, the guy that I feel I'm more high on this guy than a lot of people, and it's Cedric Wilson out of Boise State. Pretty good tape. He's a really good receiver after the catch, but he's got those big, long and thick arms that I like to see out of a receiver, kind of, like a young Julio Jones in terms of his arm length and what he can do there. He's quick for his size. He's decently fast. He's definitely fast enough. 4.55 40. I think he's just going to be a really solid receiver all around. You can do anything with him, really, especially on the outside. Could come in and be a legit number 2 receiver right away. But he does also have a little bit of upside to be even more than that as well, which is why I really like Cedric Wilson. Then number 9, I got Marcell Ateman here. Another guy that maybe some of you have not heard of. Some others are very high on Ateman. So I got a second or third round grade on him. He's just one of many large receivers in this class. He just happens to be my favorite other than St. Brown, ahead of guys like Auden Tate, Allen Lazard, even like Simi Cobbs. There's a lot of really big receivers, big, strong receivers in this class. Most of those guys are pretty raw, though, and I like Ateman more than those guys coming in. I have Marvin Jones as a comparison. He's a lot bigger than Marvin Jones, but he has pretty similar qualities in terms of his play. He doesn't create a ton of separation similar to Marvin Jones, but he's really good at the point of the catch. Physical guy. Good, not great athlete. He only ran a 4.62, but he's quick to complement to that. So, I think he's a good enough athlete to be a number 2. I don't know if he has the upside like a Cedric Wilson has to actually be the number 1 receiver on a team, but I also think he's more than just a red zone threat. He has use not just in between the 20s in the red zone. And then the last guy on this list is Christian Kirk, and a lot of people love Christian Kirk. You'll notice his impact rate is a lot higher than some of the guys we've talked about. He's just lower on this list because he's a slot receiver. My comparison for him is Randall Cobb. I think he's going to come in and be a starting wide receiver in the slot right away. Really dominant after the catch. He's fast, he's quick. Just doesn't have the upside of some of these other guys, but he's definitely the best true slot receiver in this class. That said, there's guys above him that could turn into slot guys as well, like Anthony Miller or even like DJ Moore or Calvin Ridley. And we already talked about James Washington as well. So Kirk just might be the safest pick on this list. Just happens to be here at number 10. So that's the whole list here. People are going to be asking about DJ Chark and perhaps Deshaun Hamilton. Well, those would be my next 2 in that order. People are going to be enamored by the high 40 time for DJ Chark. I think he's Torrey Smith, not Odell Beckham, coming out of LSU. Tracks the ball well deep, but really doesn't show a whole lot on tape. He obviously has the upside with that speed, but has a lot of developing to go. So I just wasn't comfortable with him in the top 10. And I like the upside of like Equanimeous St. Brown more than DJ Chark if you are looking for that raw, high upside pick. And then Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State. I love my Penn State players, and he has all of the measurables that I wanted to see from him, but a redshirt senior, maybe a slow developer, maybe a guy with actually a little bit of a lower ceiling. He's not super fast, he's not super big, but could absolutely be a wide receiver 2 very soon. Maybe right away, maybe not. Just had to give those guys a mention because in the running backs video, people were wondering where Ronald Jones and Darius Geis were. But clearly the people asking that didn't watch till the end of the video anyway. So maybe that was pointless. Maybe it wasn't. Regardless, that was fun talking about receivers. We're going to have tight ends coming up. It's a pretty weak tight end class. We might just do top 5 tight ends to keep that one shorter. But regardless, guys, check out the draft board on my Patreon or through PayPal. That's all in the description below. Thanks for watching. Cheers. We'll see you next time.